Um, why don't we get right into it, because I'm really excited to bring our next speaker on. He's held numerous roles in manufacturing and supply chain management at Nissan over the past 13 years, leading on topics such as localization, digital management, and capital investment in production. And since 2021, he's been leading across inbound, outbound, export logistics for Nissan here in Mexico. And so I'm very pleased to welcome Director of Logistics for Nissan Mexico, Ivan Davila. Gracias. Ivan, such a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to hand over to you, and we'll come afterwards for Q&A.
Well, thank you, Christopher, and thank you also, Richard, for opening this very important space for Nissan. And I am really glad to explain how is operating Nissan. Well, I started with this video because we are the front line of the supply chain. And in the front line, we face all of these challenges that we put in here. We faces the COVID pandemic condition, we faces weather condition, we have a lot of disruption in the routes, we are facing some of conditions of the geopolitical status that we are living nowadays. So this is the real condition that we face every hour, trying to deliver components in the real time, in the proper time, and in the proper quantity for the factories. I am very glad to say that we are supporting Nissan operation, and Nissan across the years have put a lot of confidence in the Mexican market. As Chris told in the morning, Nissan put the first investment in Mexico 60 years ago. That means Nissan have investment since 16 years here in Mexico, putting vehicles, putting new technologies, putting development of the people, trying to increase our position in our markets. And we need to deliver all the components for those factories. A1, running 65 vehicles per hour. This is the fastest line in terms of the alliance, Nissan, Renault, Mitsubishi, and we can say very proudly that we have this condition in Mexico, supported by Mexican engineers. A2, running 42 vehicles per hour, and CVAC producing the pickups, running 25 vehicles per hour. We have as well a very strong production center of engines located in Aguascalientes powertrain plant, and as well Compass, that is a joint venture between Nissan and Daimler. And once the manufacturing facilities can build the vehicle, we have the responsibility as well as outbound to deliver the vehicles to the whole markets. We are exporting until 88 markets around the globe, and we are delivering for the domestic market for more than 240 dealers. So we need to provide end-to-end visibility for all the customers, and we are having to introduce the resilience to have some adaptation for the up and down variation that we are facing nowadays with the semiconductor constraint. For sure, we are supporting the strategy of the company for the carbon neutrality, and all of these conditions that I am starting to explain cannot be done without the people. The people is one of the most important resources that we have in the company, so we need people proud of being part of Nissan and always keep safety as well as the compliance concepts. This is the actual operation that we have. As you well know, Mexico have a very strategical geolocalization. We have connection with the East and the Western. We have more than 45 free trade agreements with the different countries that bring a lot of competitiveness to Mexico. We have rail infrastructure for the south and for the north and the south, and we have a very good free trade agreement with in the region, that is the USMCA, that allow to introduce our vehicles in a very friendly way through the City Path agreement to USA. We have as well a very good port accessibility in the Pacific side as well in the Atlantic side. And in the middle of this slide, you can see the inbound operation that we have. We are bringing in components from 10 overseas origins. We have more than 9,000 parts of global sourcing to build until 7 different models. And during the last year, we import more than 10,000 containers. Our parts localization bring a very, very good competitiveness in terms of the USMCA regulation. We have localized into the Americas region 78% of the parts. So this brings a very good competitiveness for us. And in case of the Asia, we have 13% of the localization, and in case of Europe, just 4%. And well, in case of the exports, we are delivering vehicles for more than 88 countries. We are moving vehicles for the Pacific and the Atlantic side as well. And we have direct connection from the BPCs to the ports, utilizing the railway infrastructure. As I already mentioned, we have the CityPath certification to deliver vehicles in a very friendly way. And well, in terms of trucks, we have been supported by different companies that bring us this level of competitiveness. We are delivering a load factor in the haulaways until 13 vehicles if we are speaking about small vehicles, and in the average we are delivering in 12. Let me explain more in detail some of the biggest strengths of Nissan. We are managing an internal fleet of trucks. We are dedicating some of the strategical routes in the country to cover some of the most critical routes for Nissan. We are delivering more than 2.9 millions of cubic meters per year, and we are covering some of the supplies between A1 and A2 that are some of the most important factories in Mexico, as well as some routes from Aguascalientes to Civac to move engines as well as stamping parts. And we are taking a new role covering some routes within the suppliers in the region of the Bajío and the region of the North and the South, bringing more competitiveness to Nissan Mexico in terms of logistics CPU. We are taking advantage as well of the legislation in Mexico that allow to use big trucks, as you can see in this image. We are using 40-feet tandem with a capacity of 140 cubic meters, as well as the concept that we introduced some years ago that we used to call big trucks, because big truck is giving us the capability of ship more than 200 cubic meters per ship. This is the onboard operation. You can see a very crowded image of the Mexican country, but this is the reality. This shows the complexity that we have to deliver finished vehicles for the Mexican market. We are distributing 14 different models in all the country for more than 240 dealers in Mexico for Nissan and Infiniti brands. As I mentioned, we are receiving very strong support for different carriers with a very good competitiveness in terms of quality and delivery. Our record of shipping was in 2016 with 864,000 vehicles. So due to the conditions that you already know, the pandemic and the semiconductor crisis, we have declined the volume, but we are ready to recover the volumes that we used to ship in the past. The free of damage rate that we are managing is in a very healthy condition, as well as the delivery turns on time. Those are the vehicles that we are producing proudly in Mexico: Versa, Sentra, March, Kicks, Frontier, MP300, and V-Drive. And in the upper position, you can see the new Kicks e-Power. E-Power is bringing the new technology of the electrification to Mexico. We already introduced this model in October, and it's going to be the success of the electrification because we doesn't require any kind of infrastructure from other parties or from the government. This technology that is going to be shown later is great because it doesn't have this kind of dependency of charging stations. This is another very important operation that we have, is the export center for components that we used to call ILN. The ILN catch all the components from the Mexican suppliers, and we ship to the operations of the Alliance, Nissan and Renault around the world. We are supporting 14 different countries for 24 mass production companies, 18 from Nissan, 6 from Renault. The past year, we used to ship 3,500 of 40-feet containers. During this year, we are going to achieve very close to 4,300, and our expectation is to continue growing. In fact, some weeks ago, we launched some seminar to try to provide this infrastructure and these services to our partners, trying to take advantage of the contracts that we already have and the infrastructure and the skill of the people to try to reduce the logistic cost and create synergies. Very proudly to say that into the alliance, we are ranked as first position in terms of container fill rate, as well as the quality in terms of components. And this is the most important slide for me because it's talking about the people. Nothing that we could do in the logistics could be done without the talent. So we need to protect the talent, we need to develop new talent, and we need to continue taking the new challenges of the supply chain. In my organization, I have 274 people, and the structure that we have in terms of generation is 3% for baby boomers, 28% for Generation X, 63% of millennials, and the new generation, 6% from centennials. So we have a lot of diversity, we have a lot of know-how, we have a lot of new people coming, new ideas, and supporting all the disruptive conditions that we are facing around the globe. And we are putting very strong for a top-down integration in all the levels, very direct communication between the top level until the analyst or the down level. And we are looking for an emotional salary. This is what we are looking for. Beyond the salaries that we need to offer, emotional working experience that allow create a synergy between the work-life balance and the Nissan success for sure. Some of the attractiveness that we are promoting nowadays is the new talent exposure to the top executives in the region as well as global, top-down integration and flexible schemes, and the diversity and equity and gender promotion. Some of the certifications that we already have is the Super Empresas in 2022, the Best Place to Work, and the Women's Empowerment Principles from the ONU. And finally, we are introducing as well Technologies 4.0 as a preventive concept in our organization. We are trying to remove the reactive condition that we used to manage, because honestly speaking, we have a very, very strong skill in terms of reaction. And we can deliver all the components to the production facilities, and we can avoid any kind of stoppage in the main line. But this concept of running under that way, it's quite difficult. We need to set up an evolution and create the new concept of predictive and preventive maintenance. In terms of packaging, we have the responsibility as well for develop the packaging for the new parts, and we have some systems for 3D modeling, packaging prototype. We have a laboratory test in our facilities to try to recreate all the conditions that we are going to have in the transportation, trying to keep the quality, as well as the virtual reality parts study. And David Plata from my organization is promoting very strong the export management system for the finished vehicles, where we are going to have the capability to have end-to-end visibility since the ordering, production, shipment, port, customs, and delivery to the customer. As well, in the inbound, my organization is introducing right now the transport management system to have end-to-end visibility for all the transportation. So I'm going to close with the next video that is going to explain the e-power introduction, the electrification that Nissan is bringing for Mexico. Well, the electrification is a reality in Mexico coming by the Nissan e-Power. So you should drive this vehicle. It's wonderful. That's it from my side.
Gracias, Ivan.
Gracias.
Thank you so much. Please have a seat. Thank you so much, Ivan, for sharing all that. I mean, first of all, the trip down memory lane since 2017 wasn't that nice to relive. But seriously, you obviously presented many of the things we've been facing in the supply chain and illustrated, I think, very well clearly what Nissan has been doing to react. I think very interesting with the internal fleets, for example, increasing that. Coming back to the points on quality and what. Similar to what we heard from Audi earlier too, the levels that Mexico is able to achieve despite the challenges, and really picking up on this theme towards moving towards more predictive supply chains and standardizing your data and systems, obviously also very important and picks up from what we've heard from other speakers as well. We're going to go into some of those topics in our panel discussion as well, but I want to, before I do that, I want to bring on some of our other experts. Our other voodoo dolls, I think, as we might call them here in logistics, to take some more pain from you alongside you. Our first other from a major tier one, he has extensive experience in automotive in Mexico, including leading roles at Continental Tires and also in logistics with DHL Global Forwarding. Since 2019, he's been responsible for logistics operations across plants and a distribution center here in Mexico for American Axle Manufacturing. Very happy to welcome Omar Posadas, Logistics Coordinator. Omar. Thank you, Omar. Welcome. Cheers. Please have a seat. Our other panelist here has more than 27 years experience in major logistic companies such as Kuehne and Nagel. He joined a 3PL and premium freight specialist Ascent in 2021 as president and chief synergy officer. Very, very happy to welcome Mauro Rodrigo González from Ascent. Welcome, Mauro.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And finally, rounding off our panel with a particular view on the outbound logistics side, he's been really one of the leading FTL experts in Mexico, I would say. He's been on this stage a few times as well in the past. He's held numerous commercial operational roles for Wallenius Wilhelmsen since 2007 and 2014, sorry. And he's now VP of Mexico Operations, Roberto Zavala. Gracias, Roberto. Nice to see you here. So here's our panel. Again, as per, I have plenty of questions, but I do hope you'll get involved. This is the way we're going to round out our session today. So I wanted to start picking on with the other panelists. Clearly, Ivan showed us some of the pain points that Nissan has felt and how Nissan has been reacting to them over the past years. I want to hear from the other panelists in terms of what bottlenecks and issues you're currently facing in Mexico. And we'll talk a bit about some of the strategies, some of the things you're doing to mitigate them. So Omar, can I start with you on that?
Thank you so much, Chris. I think so that the most relevant bottleneck that we can see is the port congestion. Yeah. Due to the contracted global market in the overseas, I think so that now is the most relevant bottleneck that we have. So this causes the transit times more largest. Also, we need to change some roads. We have blank sailings. So in this moment, I think so this is the most relevant.
It's the most relevant one indeed, and we'll talk a bit more about that, but I'd like to turn to you, Mauro, and hear your view and what you see as from Ascent.
Well, I don't know, it's working, yes.
Yeah.
I think that there is a combination of different factors, everybody's moving to technology after what happened with the COVID situation and the flexibility that we need, but there is some disruption or, how can I say, disconnections between, authorities, customs, infrastructures, also lack of drivers, lack of equipment. So I think that we are tackling multiple issues definitely talent as well. It's another big issue right now that we are having.
Absolutely. Well, Roberto, I want to finish with you on this one, considering you're looking at the outbound chain. I think you also have some data you might be able to share with us. So why don't you talk to about that? And I think we have a slide we can bring up for this too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So we wanted to touch upon the lack of trucks. It's been discussed in length during the conference. We did a rerun of a study that we presented back in 2016, I believe, and basically, so what it shows.
We'll get it up in a moment. Sorry. If you could just put up the slide, please, that we have there. Thanks, Roberto.
So basically, the base of our study is interviews with the carriers in Mexico, and through interviews with the carriers, what we calculate is that there is currently close to 3,000 trucks in the market. So carriers did invest in trucks. If you compare to 2015, there's a big increase there, especially between 2015 and 2019. Then there was a lot of investment during the COVID time. But so at the end of the day, what we see is that there is enough trucks, right, like to meet the demand, which is it's pretty tight, but it's there. There is enough trucks. So what's really driving the shortage? And it's been discussed here. So the port congestion, which it's increasing the cycle times. We're also seeing this on the ocean side of business, where coming from a company which core business is the ocean transportation, 10% of our fleet at any given time is waiting at ports, for instance. So port congestion is a big issue now. The shortage of licensed drivers, and then also capacity on other transportation modes. You guys remember there was a big issue with the railroads. Like there was a strike about to happen, and that caused some delays, and that basically caused the use of or the need for more trucks. Insecurity and vandalism continues to happen. You've seen it in the news. Just a couple full trucks were stolen in the last couple weeks, 3 weeks. That's trucks that, of course, won't be able to carry cars for a period of time. And then also what we hear from carriers is, the need for longer-term contracts with the customers. So if you just go to the next slide, just to close down, I mean, from my side, what to look for within the auto market. We don't see in 2023 at least that more trucks are going to be added to the market. It's more expensive. The delivery times are larger. Someone mentioned this earlier today. It's becoming a sales market. We see a big increase on the rates for truck transportation. We'll see more synergies, right? Like co-loading back 5-6 years ago, it was still like a taboo, so you didn't see a lot of it. Now, co-loading is a reality. I mean, we see it all the time. More brands are doing it. And then something that I hope doesn't happen, you guys have to remember that someone presented earlier, like comparing volumes between 2020, 2021, 2022. 2020 and 2021 were kind of like outliers, like atypical years, right? But if you go back to 2019, there was 5.5 million vehicles, between production and domestic sales. Now it's 1 million less than that. So if we're struggling now, if that market comes back, and if it's a sudden comeback, it's going to be an issue from a transportation, from a logistics perspective, like even beyond what we're seeing now.
Thank you. So there you get a good picture both across the supply chain, really, about where we're seeing bottlenecks and some potential ones. I want to come on to some of the mitigation techniques that the panel has been using. But maybe I'll turn to you on that next, Yvonne. I mean, just from what you saw there, is that sort of aligned with what Nissan is trying to plan for in terms of 2023, production volumes stabilize? We have to contend not just with the outbound side, but also inbound with potential issues. Are you proactively trying to address that now?
Yeah, right. Some of the key strategies that we are looking for the 2023 is to stabilize the production. For example, Gerardo de la Torre is one of the pillars that is trying to looking for that continuity in the production, because once we could stabilize the production, we could bring this atmosphere of stabilization for all the supply chain. considering all the partners in the part supply as well as the partners in the carriers. Another of the big challenges for the coming years is going to be the talent development. As we see in the morning, there is a very big industrialization in the region related to the electrification. So a lot of talent is going to be required, and we need to provide solutions for the new supply concepts and the new routes and the new sourcings that we need to provide, as well as we need to comply with the new regulations, not just in the country, as well in the region, such as the USMCA.
Omar, when you look, you mentioned in the beginning the port and shipping issues as a major topic for American Axle. When you look to 2023, are you also anticipating further issues? What are you doing? Are you taking steps now to try to mitigate them?
So, I mean, in our case, we have a strong supply chain team. Also, we have standardized processes that can permit us to do faster analysis. Depends on the trouble that we have, we can apply a solution. Maybe we need to be more flexible. We need to adapt our conditions for the global market. So, I mean, depends of the trouble that we have. But basically, sometimes we need to change the transportation mode. We need to change air freight. We need to do hand carries. So, depends. But if you have standardized processes, you can do analysis faster. You can take the most efficient solution for you.
Absolutely. Mauro, where are you focusing your sort of resource and efforts now to help to address some of those issues that we're talking about?
Well, I think that the COVID, as I was saying before, changed completely the world, right? And in terms of logistics supply chain, I think that the world now recognize that supply chains are really fragile, and we were lucky this time that the virus was not so aggressive in the sense of killings. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to keep on running the supply chain. I think what the companies and the people did around the world is fantastic, and that forced to logistic providers like us to start understanding that we need to blend between technology and physical distribution. So we as Ascent, what we did is create a very robust plan in order to grow 3 pillars. The first one is technology. The second one, the people, be flexible and be able to operate 24/7 around the world, regardless the conditions. And the third one is, for me, the lesson learned was to work closer with the partners to make sure that our carriers and vendors are having a robust system and process in place as well, so we can guarantee the capacity and the execution. So those are the 3 axes or pillar of the business that we are developing right now, and we create an ecosystem in which we are not only participating, an on-demand, international and domestic solution for our customer, but we are collaborating even with competitors or our partners in order to help our final customers to have more predictive and descriptive data analytics, and make sure that we are flexible according to the fluctuating needs and conditions that we have.
Absolutely. So lots of common themes around that technology and power of data. Omar, you just made the point around standardization of processes and of data to better get to grips with this. Ivan, you shared around Nissan's strategy to really unify your system structure. I wanted to start with you on this, Omar. How are you tracking your supply chain right now? Are you using a TMS? Are you working with providers? Do you have a mix of different ways to do this?
Basically, it's a mix.
Yeah.
So we have a program that has connection via EDI with our customers and suppliers, but also we use the platforms that our partners provide us. So in every time, in 24 hours, we can see where is our materials. But basically, we have near communication with our suppliers, and we use their platforms.
And this is, and as you say, this is a focus area to gain this visibility, to make this even more real time or on track critical parts.
Yes, basically we have some in-houses that works for us, 3 shifts, 7 days. So we have the full visibility over the week using different platforms.
And Ivan, I'm just interested, I'm sure we can spend an hour talking about the system integration there in Mexico, but can you give us a little bit more flavor? Is this been coordinated at a North America level? Is it a single system? Is it in-house? So just give us a flavor of what that's looked like that we referred to.
Yeah, one of the biggest strategies is to try to create a synergy into the North America region, working together US and Mexico teams. So I need to recognize that the US is doing great things as well as Mexico team. And we are making best practice sharing solutions. For example, in Mexico, we have been introduced the transportation management system. And right now we have the capability to monitor all the deliveries in terms of components in the real time when are going to arrive to the plants. And within this condition, we are trying to share confidence to the plant production. As I share in some of the slides, my team is introducing the export management system as well that is under development with some of the technological partners, trying to provide this level of end-to-end visibility to the customers, even if those are national customers or even if it's going to be for exports. So the main concern is to try to integrate all the supply chain since the ordering, the parts distribution, the manufacturing of the vehicle, the processing center in the yards, the accessorization as well as the shipping until the delivery. And some of the most important condition in this solution is that it's not just monitoring for the manufacturing and delivery of the vehicle. This is going to bring us as well the capability to bring financial and commercial negotiations in real time.
Okay, that's really important points there. And Roberto, I'm curious, from yours, you shared some of the approaches that can be taken to deal with the driver shortages and the capacity issues. There you're hearing a lot about system integration and visibility. Are you seeing areas where that is already or could improve further some of those points like co-loading and building further synergies, or to be honest, is it not really there yet?
I don't think so. There isn't a really like a good answer now. A couple customers have called us like desperate, because there's just not enough trucks, and it won't be. There's no easy solution. It won't be quick. I think in time it's going to get better. Co-loading is always an option, and trying to maximize the empty spaces still available on trucks. That's an alternative, and also what we're starting to see is flows on rail, right? Railroad is becoming a solution, like for instance from Lázaro to distribution centers in the middle of the country to serve the metro area here in Mexico City, and those type of alternatives, they're going to ease up the problem a little. Digitalization, it's big on everyone's agenda. It is in our company, but I think on itself, it won't solve the problem right now. It's not there yet.
It doesn't replace the
there's no Uber for trucks yet.
Yeah. Mauro, I mean, one of the topics that have come up throughout the day, a lot of focus on partnership and changes we've seen kind of pre and post COVID, and as a result. For your company, can you talk a little bit about if you've also experienced that change, particularly in areas like expedited freight and premium freight? Maybe in the past this was the desperate call. Is this changing a bit now to be less of the desperate call and more of the proactive and sort of integrated approach?
Well, I think that the customers are, evolving very, very fast, right? They're getting a lot of intelligence, as Nissan was presenting before. All of them are thinking about how to maximize and to integrate data and make sure that all parts are really having a game plan and they have better visibility, connectivity, and they can guarantee the service. There are some gaps, I think, from my point of view, that we need to overcome regarding the technology and the use of data, so we can really collaborate much further. But we still have a physical barrier, right? So when you're talking about emergencies, sometimes even with the technology and predictivity and everything, we have all the planes and we have the tracks and everybody's ready, but gets to the border and guess what? It's Sunday, you cannot cross and you have a line shut down. So that's why in your first question, I was talking about the fact that we need to collaborate much closer, government, private sectors, different players, even as the university, as the previous speaker was saying, right? We need to understand that competitiveness in supply chain, it's really important for the country and for what is coming for nearshoring and all the growth that we can get from the current situation that we are facing in the world. I think Mexico is very well positioned and it's a great opportunity for us to do something different once for all, for integrate, digital and physical logistics all together.
Omar, I mean, there's lots of points there around digitalization, but on the partnership point for American Axle, have you changed the way you work with some of your key logistic partners with a more long-term horizon or sharing, communicating more compared to what was previously the case?
Yes, I mean, it's really important to have this communication, this transparent communication on time. If you have the full communication, if you have a new relationship with your partners, you can choose the best option for you. You can have more certainty about the conditions of this global market. So I mean, it's very important to have the really new communication with the partnerships, with the customers, with the suppliers, with all value stream supply chain.
Yvonne, you made that point as well, but you also, and I think it's interesting, you highlighted your in-house fleet. Obviously, in some cases, as you allude to, I mean, the trucks, if you need the trucks and wherever you can get them, is this something you're also considering expanding in some ways?
Yeah, in fact, we started this project with some local routes between Aguascalientes 1, Aguascalientes 2, and then we expanded from Aguascalientes to Cuernavaca for supply engines as well as stamping parts. We are, I can say that we are in the third phase. The third phase is the supplier synergy. We are covering some of the critical routes in the center on the Bajío. And then we have identified some opportunities that we have a CFI and we could transfer to X-Works and we could take over that condition, trying to increase the competitiveness of Nissan Mexico. So the answer is yes, but we need to be very careful on what is the healthy condition that we could manage without to have any kind of disruption exposure for the factories of Nissan.
Roberto, have you seen on the outbound side, have you seen any OEMs looking to take some fleets, trucks in-house? I mean, we've seen some of this in the US. I'm not sure if it's something, and in Europe, I'm not sure if it's anything that we've seen in Mexico.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay, great. We heard, actually, I think it was Chris Stiles from Nissan said this morning, one of the key objectives for him and Nissan was how to become a better customer to your providers. So what can you do to improve, for your tier one, I'm sure, or for your logistics provider? And I wanted to ask the providers on the panel first to start, in terms of, are there things that you would like to see from your customers, your OEM and your other stakeholders in your ecosystem that would help you to do your jobs better? I'll start with you, Roberto.
Sure. I think well, through COVID and then the semiconductors crisis, it really tested the relationship with our customers, right? I mean, it's really, that's when you realize the level of partnership you have. I think from our point of view, the one thing that's been very complex or very difficult is the production shutdowns. So if you have a plant that is producing, over a month, and then there's 5 days of shutdown here or 10 shutdown days there, because of the components, it puts a lot of stress in labor, for instance, in our ability to keep our people, because basically they have to go home, right? Because there's no cars to move, there's no production, and I think that's one of the things that have had an impact on our operations and the conversations we're having with our customers, and how can we support each other to continue to keep our labor and continue running an operation for the time when the volume comes. That has been key for us to maintain, and then to really test the level of partnership that we have with our customers.
Yeah. Mauro, would you add anything?
Yeah, some years ago, if you said that we were working in logistics, everybody thinks, well, you are driving a truck or you are working in a warehouse. Now, after everything that happened, we become an important part of the company right now. I think that 10 years old guys, they know that how important supply chain is, because Christmas is coming. So I think that one of the lessons that we learned, it's in terms of partnership, become a real strategic external player for our customers. I mean, we have very solid relationship with companies in which we are not only talking to the logistics experts in the company, but we are talking with the finance person, also with marketing, with sales, with even HR, compliance and so on. So when you get that engagement and that relationship, multi-level and different way to anticipate and be part of the strategy or the pain points of the companies, you can really develop a joint solution together, not only in terms of the current operation, but also in future needs, right? So I think that for me, that's the biggest lesson learned for being a partner, to show that it's not only when there is an emergency or a problem that you save the day, that they call you, but also that you are considered part of an extension of the company.
Any questions or comments from the audience? Just feel free to put your hand up. We'll get a microphone to you. But as per, oh, sorry, I didn't yet. Yeah, I think it's on. It should be on. No, it's not on. Sorry for that.
This question is for Ivan Davila. There is a possibility in the future Nissan is going to open new factories for the new power system, and could be close to the Pacific Ocean, for example, like Manzanillo, and to improve logistics of exportations. And how is your opinion of the Transseismic project for logistics automotive? Is make sense? This project?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Related to the first question for e-power production in Mexico, honestly, in my personal point of view, I think that the factories are really prepared for this new generation. What the top management is saying is that we need to have some level of demand, not just in Mexico, as well in the Americas region, to try to justify some level of investment to prepare the factories and produce in Mexico the electrification system of the e-power. But we have the capability to do, we have the skill to do, and we have the engineering support in Mexico to introduce that. Related to the new schemes of logistics, for sure we need to continue exploring more alternatives that could bring solutions for the different disruption that we are having in the different ports. For example, during this journey, a lot of people talk about the Lázaro Cárdenas congestion. We know as well that the Acapulco port was closed some years ago, so we need to continue working together with the government and the authorities to try to reflect the necessities of the industry to reopen or recreate the infrastructure that we need to be competitive and to cover the demand of the different markets. But this is a synergy, and we need to work all the OEMs together with the universities as well, together with the government, to push for this competitiveness into the country.
Thank you. One of the points that was raised earlier, I think it was Mauro talked about customs and some of the challenges that you could face, and I wanted maybe Omar to turn to you on this. Are there areas you see room for improvement on in terms of trade processes, customs clearance, etc., whether it's through systems or perhaps in coordination with authorities? Could you share some insight on that?
See, over this year, the government changes many regulations in Mexico, so it happens in a short period of time. Basically, I think so that they need to be more slim. They need to have more standardized processes in order that these upgrades in the systems in all borders around the country could be more smooth, and we can apply our solutions faster, and we can avoid more bottlenecks.
Yeah. Yes, we spoke this morning a bit about things like cartaporte and implementation of things like that. I suppose that would be potentially an area where looking at the pace of implementation would have helped.
Yes, I think so. That can be more slim. That process can be more efficient, can be more easier. Now, many companies has many doubts about that. Again, over the year, this process, the news process, has been many changes. We need to apply many updates. We need to get more information to apply this new regulation. And until this point, we are working to finish this process. I think so. Again, we need more slim processes to apply solution much faster.
Yvonne, would you point to anything else there? I mean, clearly we talked about the system side for exports that you're working on to try to integrate that as well. In terms of customs and trade, are you facing issues there? Are there opportunities you see to optimize the process?
Well, for sure, anytime that you are going to introduce a new system, there is challenges for setup and trying to recreate that you used to control in manual condition versus the automatic condition. Always when we introduce a new system, there is a ramp up for stabilization. The answer is yes, there is some concern, but I think that we have the capability to control through some action rules to try to support any kind of disruption or any kind of miscommunication in the systems. And recently, Nissan announced $700 million investment for the renewal of the plants as well of the infrastructure in Mexico, considering as well the supply chain management system. So I think that this is going to be a great opportunity to systematize all the concepts that we have in the company, and we need to catch all the opportunities that we are having to remove all the manual management and all the Excel control that we have into our systems to try to create the new environment for the predictive systems that we are going to have in the near future.
Great. And Mauro, in terms of, you are probably dealing with customs all the time. So, I don't know, give us a wish list or an area of focus for you to see what can be improved.
From their side to our side,
I would say, well, yeah. I mean, what can they do better? But
you're giving me now. You're putting me right now in a very difficult spot. It's even worse than asking me about the World Cup. We made a bet with Gerardo that tomorrow he will talk about Checo Perez. Well, I think that, as I said before, right? Everybody's having plans about development and technology and integration. What we need to all of us need to realize is that we need to have a combination between the talent and the physical activities with the technological solutions that we are bringing all together, and we need to integrate them. We need to find a way to connect everything, because what I'm seeing right now is that everybody loves to talk about control tower solutions, but they don't really understand the complexity of engaging the whole ecosystem. And if everybody continue to develop bubbles individually, it will be very difficult to connect the entire supply chain. So everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel. I think that maybe it's a great opportunity right now to rethink the way we are connecting each other and make sure that we are optimizing capacities and, you know, the solutions. Today there is a shortage in equipment, but I'm sure that in a couple of years there will be a, you know, over capacity in the market. What is going to happen then? We are always flowing in that, you know, sense. So we need to make sure that we can collaborate and, you know, rethink the ecosystem in terms of supply chain. That will be my point.
And it won't get you in any trouble either, don't worry. We're not here to get you in trouble. Maybe with football, but not with
I was waiting for that.
Roberto, Ivan made the point around investing in people, and we've heard that across. I know also for Felenius, I mean, you have a pretty large, you know, team here in Mexico as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you're changing or adapting to train your staff for the, perhaps in the context of all this disruption, but also looking to the future, right? To be able to keep up with the changes.
Yeah, that was a very good point made by Ivan earlier. I think nothing happens without the people. It's our most important asset, and we work a lot on leadership, right? Yeah. Taking care of your people so they perform, so they do what they're supposed to be doing. I think that's key for us as well. We're focusing a lot on listening to people, doing more structure and better surveys to understand how they feel, and what things would they like to change within the organization. So absolutely, that's key. We in Mexico we employ nearly 2,000 people, and taking care of them, it's of paramount importance, and also safety. Of course, we do a lot on safety, and that's something you never stop. You cannot say I've done enough, right? It's a continuous improvement process, and we focus a lot on that.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
And Omar, maybe just also from your side, some last thoughts on your people. How are you focusing? Where are you investing in skills for logistics for your staff?
American Excel.
Can we?
Hello?
Yeah.
American Excel thinks that the person is the most important asset. They provide us continuous learning. Depends of your skills. They provide courses. Also, they think that the person need to grow up with the company. They provide us many opportunities to grow up with the company, not only in Mexico, also in the factors that we have around the world. So they provide many opportunities to grow up with the company. If you have talent, they giving us all tools to do our job. They giving us the enough training to be more smart and be more efficient persons and professionals.
Fantastic. Well, we're just about out of time. I think I'll just have a last question to you, Ivan, just to kind of close us. Perhaps just a few thoughts on what you see. You've identified a number of strategies to build resilience for Nissan now. What do you think will be the most important factor for your logistics and supply chain in 5 years' time? So a really easy question to finish.
Yeah, thank you, Christopher. Well, the resilience is one of the main important factors that all the team in the supply chain is having in the front every day. A lot of disruptions, a lot of new conditions are having around the world, creating critical conditions, and we need to protect anytime the supplies to the factories as well, the supply of the finished vehicles to the dealer network. So those conditions we need to take care in a very specialized way, the work balance of the people, because the supply chain scheme is living under very hard stress every day to arrive on time. So if we could create a job balance environment with the team, and we could recognize all the effort that they do every day to support all the operation and to deliver vehicles to the families in more than 88 countries, I think that is great. So the main concept is to protect the people. They are giving their best anytime. So we need to recognize the people, and we need to continue promoting the growing up of the team with new schemes, with new training, with new coaching, and with exposure in different forums. And we need to provide as well the confidence to the women. So the women are becoming a very valuable asset in all the companies, and they are very committed in all the terms of the business. So those are the concepts that we need to protect anytime.
I think that's a great point to end it on us in terms of focusing today on the people. In 5 years' time, it will be just as much on the people, if not more. As for all the points that you just raised. I'm glad you raised the point on diversity as well. This is a major topic we see in the industry. I'm glad we didn't have only all male panels today. I'm sorry for the fact that we are here to close, but we weren't only all men all day, and we won't be tomorrow either, and I think it's important. Thank you everyone for your insights, for your time and honesty here. This has been a great conclusion to the first day of our conference. So first of all, thank you very much.
Thank you.